Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to the Rangers Women's Show. My name is Brian. Tonight I'm joined by Carr. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Don't know where Wilf is, but
Yeah, he's went AWOL. I don't know where Wilf is. He's usually very on the ball and waiting for us, but it's us tonight. So we'll start without him. I'm sure he'll join us eventually. But we had two games, Carr, to speak about. Obviously, we had the midweek game against Partick. Very much a changed team. We'd been speaking about it in the show last Monday, and a lot. Well, it was dominated by the young team, that starting lineup.
yeah, I kind of expected there'd be a lot of changes just with like everyone struggling with injuries and stuff. I didn't think there'd be that many. I didn't think he'd fully sub out the whole midfield, but I was surprised by that. And it kind of worked. You could tell that they hadn't all played together a lot before, though. You could tell it was a bit kind of ragged, it was a bit frantic at times, but they did all right. It was quite a good showing for most of them being under the age of 18.
Yeah, and I mean the first we have Wilf. Here he goes.
What happened to 10? What happened to 10 o'clock?
It's 2:15, wasn't it?
I'd say 2:45.
No, I said 10. I said 10 o'clock.
Oh, did you?
Yes,
Well,
because Carl was working till 10. Although Carl said she could be in at 2:45, I was still to leave it at 10.
All right, okay. I
right.
picked it up wrong then. I had picked it up wrong. Very
Right.
apologetic.
I just told everybody on the earlier pod it was 10 o'clock, but it's fine. We're here now, so it's okay. Apologies.
No, we're just literally started off saying it was a much changed team from the weekend that was dominated by the young team, the starting lineup against Partick.
It was, and there was only one change yesterday as well to it, I noticed. So
yeah.
It seemed a bit I don't know what you said, but to me it seemed a bit odd that he'd rested the international players, or the players that were wearing international duty. You know what I mean? It just seemed a bit odd that he rested them all. You know what I mean? Just
absolutely
very, very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, it was. And of course, Cart was one of the young team to open the scoring, which was always I wouldn't say it was predictable, but it was nice to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, Emma doesn't get a lot of. It was Emma. It was Emma, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Emma. I'm trying to remember. There was a few goals in that game. Emma doesn't get a lot of goals, but when she does score, she takes them very well. So it was nice for them to start and get some more time. And she did play very well. Once they kind of got into it, as I was saying earlier, it was a bit kind of. You could tell they hadn't played together. It was a bit frantic, kind of at the start. But once we got that goal, it kind of settled us down a little bit.
Yeah. The Springboks was saying it was a bit of a sluggish start the first half, but the second half was very good. So it was 1-0 at half time, Wolf. And then the second half, we start off, and it's the other part of the trio that scored. Jodie McCleary, she got her first goal. She got the second goal, and it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's easy street from there on, but 2-0, we're looking pretty comfortable. He's not listening. 2-0, Car?
Yeah. The first half, a couple of injuries in the first half for Partick Thistle, which kind of helped us a wee bit, but it was very stop-start. There was a lot of to and fro with a couple of their players going down. I think one had an ACL and the other one kind of looked like she twisted her knee a bit. So that kind of stopped things in the first half from flowing a bit better. But yeah, Jodie, she's excellent. She's a great player with Jodie, so it was good to get her back scoring and kind of flowing a bit better. It wasn't as juttery, I'll say, as the first half was.
Yeah, and of course, one of our favourites, Jenny, scored the third, Wolf. Still a bit of an enigma for you, isn't she?
I just don't understand why she keeps getting a game. I really don't. I mean, I know we'll get on to yesterday's game, which I was lucky enough to be at, but I just don't. I mean, I don't understand why she's. I mean, as you said at the start, or just when I came on, there was a lot of changes for the game against Partick, and the young team all started, but Yenny still started. You know what I mean? And it's a second touch is usually a tackle. You know what I mean? I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Don't get it at all. And I know. I know Carl's the president of our supporters club, but I mean, there's just nothing. You know what I mean? It's
And then the thing is, well, she went on, not far after her first goal of the evening. Jenny gets her second goal of the evening, so she knows where the net is, doesn't she?
She does against the teams that we should be beating, but when we're playing like Celtic and Glasgow City and even Hibs and Hearts, who are, the better teams in the league, she's as well not being there really. You know what I mean? She's an enigma. I mean, there's no doubt she's a good player. No doubt she's a good football player. It just mystifies me as to why she starts every week. You know what I mean? There is a theory as to why she starts every week, but we won't go into that. You know what I mean?
And then, Cara, the last goal of the evening was just before 66 minutes into the game. Plenty of time for more, but Kayla McCoy gets a goal. Nice to see her back in amongst the goals because she's been a bit I wouldn't say ragged. She's been injured over the last wee while as well. Plus international duties, travelling back and forth. So nice to see her getting back in amongst the goals.
Yeah, at times it looks like Jenny was the main striker and then Kayla was the main striker, but Kayla was having to do all the work of coming deep to get the ball, so she wasn't getting any service. So it was nice that she got a goal. But to touch on Jenny, there was a point in the first half where she'd been given the ball on a plate and she turned round and had her back to the goal. I know it wasn't on TV or anything, so no one's probably seen it, and they probably didn't have it in the highlights, but I genuinely had my head in my hands at that point because she got a perfect ball on a plate and she turned the opposite direction to pass it back. It's mental, but I don't know why they don't just put Kayla up front, give everyone to feed balls to her, and she'll score way more goals than she's getting the chance to right now.
Yeah, I mean, Wilf, she's obviously, I think she's had a couple of injury niggles, and obviously travelling back and forth for international duty doesn't help her because obviously she only travels back on the day before a game, so it's not very fair on her to play straight after she's just got off a plane. But it's nice to see Kayla back in the goals and obviously contributing as well.
Yeah, I mean, you say that about travelling back, but I mean, the Thistle game was nearly a week after the international, so she should have been okay by then. You know what I mean? It's not like 2 or 3 years ago when 5 or 6 years ago, when they weren't full-time professionals, and if they were going away on international duty, they were coming back and then probably going to work and then going to training and going to playing and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's their job now. It's their full-time job. So they're coming back and they'll be getting away with training plans and they'll be coming back to train properly and they'll be watching their loading and all that sort of stuff. So it was a wee bit, I mean, the Celtic game being on the Friday night was a wee bit odd. The day after most of them had come back off international duty, that was a wee bit strange. But then Celtic had the same problems as well, I would imagine. Yeah. And we understand why they moved that to the Friday. But I mean, the Partick Thistle game, that was nearly a week later. Yeah. So there would have been no issues with that then. But like you say, it's good to see Kayla back amongst the goals. I mean, again, she didn't start yesterday either. She didn't start against Spartans either. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And I suppose one of the highlights for you, Carver's young Laura Berry getting on the pitch. Another youngster getting an appearance. She's obviously been working very hard in training and getting the rewards. Just another one coming off the conveyor belt, isn't it? Yeah, I mean,
I've watched her a couple of times with the 16s, 18s, whatever they're called. Fantastic striker. She's much the same as Jodie in that. Her technical knowledge of the game is great, and she had a chance herself where she nearly chipped a keeper and she just got it a little bit too much on it. But she came on fire and she was running at everything. She was going for every ball, and it was great to see that it's working. We're bringing these girls through and we're making that progression that we can see. I don't know why we don't just next year build the team around them. Obviously, we'll need imports, we'll need people coming in to back them up. But why we don't just do that and say, right, this is the plan. These are going to be the future. Let's figure this out and do it. But fantastic. And then obviously she came on again on Sunday, which was great to see. So it's nice to see that they're doing that and they're hopefully keeping her now as part of the squad.
Absolutely. I mean, Wilf, as you said, that was 2 games in a row, pretty much that the young team started. They started against Partick and then they started against Spartans. A difficult game. I mean, we'll get into the game a bit more, but yesterday wasn't a wouldn't have been an ideal sort of easy game for them, because obviously away from home, a team pushing for top 6, I believe, Spartans. So they had a lot to play for, and it's good for the young team to get games like this, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, you've got to the position that we're in. We should be putting the game away first. I mean, yes, it's great to see the young team getting games, but we also need to make sure we win the game at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was noticeable yesterday. I mean, we'll get into it. It was noticeable yesterday that the whole way we played. I mean, the first half was dreadful. I mean, I would equate yesterday's game at Spartans to the men's game on Saturday against Kilmarnock in reverse, in that the first half was rotten yesterday and the second half was decent, and the men's game was the other way around. But the second half was only decent because he brought on a bit of width. He brought on a bit of width early in the second half. He brought Brogan on at half time, and then Lizzie came on shortly after that, and that stretched Spartans. That really stretched the game, and it was no coincidence that the goal came from Lizzie putting the ball in and Brogan sticking it in the net. Because first half we were huffing and puffing, but there was just nothing. There was no width. It was all just too narrow. There was the fullbacks are pushing up, and there was nobody up front to give the ball to. It was just it was really, really poor in the first half yesterday.
And I suppose Martinez coming back, that was obviously planned, but another, because I think she's been injured as well for the last little while, so it just gives us more options in that centre half role, doesn't it? Because I think there was a period there where we only had the 2 centre halves fit, so it was nice to get another one back on the pitch playing.
Yeah, she was back last week. Well, Wednesday. She played against Partick, but it was good. I don't know if you could hear him, Wilf, but Malky kept shouting, "Maddie, go wide," and Rachel was shouting back at her, "Get wide, go forward." So I don't know. I don't think it's a coaching thing. I don't think Malky's telling them to play that way, because he's telling them, "Go forward, go wide," and they're not listening to him. So I don't know if it's just a case of they're too scared and they're just getting stuck, lumping it up, and then not being able to do anything with it. And until we actually get width on, who can play wide and play fast, that it works. So I don't know what the issue was.
That's what I was saying, Kevin. When Maddie was going forward, there was nothing in front of her. I mean, Maddie actually played really well yesterday. She's one of our better players yesterday. But when she was getting forward, obviously because she's a fullback. Okay, she's a wing back, if you like. She's not the attacking output really. And she was going forward. She wasn't particularly going wide, but she was going forward through the sort of towards the side of the park. There was nothing in front of her until we brought on Brogan and Lizzie. That stretched it a bit. I mean, I thought Maddie had a really good game. She was unlucky enough to score. She had a really good game yesterday, but it was noticeable. Malky was shouting wide, and they just weren't going. There was none of them going wide really early on in the game. It was really, really frustrating because you could see what it needed. I mean, Spartans were working really hard, but it was just really, really frustrating. That first half was instantly forgettable.
Yeah, and I suppose the main sort of moment came when obviously the 2 subs came on, and sort of just after half time, Lizzie Arnott and Brogan A. 2 traditional wingers that we had, and no surprise that one was an assist and the other one scored.
Yeah, I mean, he actually made a sub at half time, which I've not seen him do that in such a long time that I was really taken aback when it happened. But you could obviously see that's what we needed, and he was being proactive with that, which is nice to see that he wasn't just waiting until he normally does wait till 60 minutes and then bring them on. But you can see the instant impact that it had, because most teams, if Brogan's on, they'll put 2 or 3 players on her so we can't go wide. Spartans weren't doing that, so I don't know why we weren't doing what we normally do, just go out wide and cross it in. I don't know what was going on there, but I know Brogan gets to the back post, which we don't seem to anybody else want to do for some reason. We'll throw balls in and there'll be nobody there to get them. So as soon as that happens, it works. So I don't know why we didn't just keep doing that, keep trying that.
That's a very good point that Alan Brown makes there about Cav. I mean, Cav was trying really, really hard yesterday, but I mean, I'm not sure she was actually comfortable where she was supposed to be playing. The position she was supposed to be playing in. I mean, you could see the frustration went forward and then had to kind of, it didn't work out for them to come back to a position. Obviously, wasn't very comfortable. Work on. Put mixing it up a bit, but it's.
We should deploy as a left sort of midfielder then.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly seemed to be. I mean, it was a bit strange at times, but it was. I mean, talking about Brogan Hakemer, the thing that mystified us is the fact they took off Jodie McCleary, because Jodie was doing okay. You know what I mean? When he put Brogan on at half time. I mean, it was commented on that that he must have had a knock to the head because he's made a substitution at half time, just picking up in Carl's point. He doesn't make substitutions at half time. You know what I mean? But I was just surprised with who he took off. I was surprised that he took Jodie McCleary off because she seemed to be doing okay. But obviously it worked because we got the goal from it. So I mean, you don't get me wrong, the game was screaming out for Brogan. It really was.
Was there any chatter at the game yesterday, guys? I think. What game was this? From Paul. Anybody know how Jane Ross is getting on with her injury? Was there any chatter at the game yesterday or the last couple of games of how she's getting on?
So the last I heard was she'll be back in May. But she seems to be in the gym doing a lot of upper body stuff, so she is keeping herself fit as best she can. But they've not really updated us since then. I think it was Stevie from Four Lads that had last said that she's back in May.
Yeah, because I think last time I seen her was either the Glasgow City game away or the cup final, and she was walking extremely gingerly. The time I seen her with you, Wilf. Remember, she was walking up the stairs.
I saw the cup final. Yeah, the cup final.
Yeah. So
I mean, that was in December. So you know what I mean,
So and she was walking unaided at least at that point without crutches or anything. So it's just the ACLs, as everybody knows, is the demon of all injuries. So it's one of those ones you've just got to take easy and just manage it as best as we can and not rush it back. I suppose the cries are not slowing down, Car. Where is it? Sorry.
Sorry, that was me. Sorry.
Sorry. Is Malky the right person to take the women's side forward in the future, or is it going to go stale under his management? I just feel we're becoming predictable. Is it him or the players?
Do you know what? I think it might be a bit of both, to be honest. I don't know if teams have figured him out now. Teams have figured out sitting a low block, sit deep. They can't break that down. They struggle against that. But a lot of these players have been here for multiple years. They're at the kind of latter stages of their careers. I'm not saying they're old, but for football players, they're getting 30, 31, whatever. They're getting there a bit. So is it a case of they're a bit tired? It's been a long time. They're kind of struggling, and he's not really changing very much. So teams have figured it out. So it's just frustrating, and then they're getting sucked into that. We don't know what to do. It doesn't matter kind of thing. So I think it could be both. I never want to see anybody getting the sack, but if that happened, maybe it would reinvigorate the squad. Maybe it would change something. But you don't know that. And then we could be stuck with a new manager that can't get a tune out of the players, and then we're even further behind.
Yeah.
Brian, just to play devil's advocate, a point I mentioned briefly on the earlier pod is that our old friend Ross Wilson, who we believe is the director of football operations, which means he's in charge of the whole shooting match, right? Seems to have made the same mistake with the women's team as he made with the men's team. The men's team won the title in 2021, and they just went, well, that's fine, we're doing okay, we'll just leave it and see what happens, and it's gone downhill. Right? Yeah. The women's team also won the league unbeaten, did really well. This season, we've gone downhill because they haven't changed anything. The sole players haven't brought anybody in. So, what is it they say about the biggest sign of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and looking for different results?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Might not be. I might be barking up the wrong tree, but if he is indeed in charge of both, he seems to have made the same mistake twice. Whether it's down to him or down to the board or whatever, but whoever makes that decision appears to have made the same mistake twice because, we got rid of players in the summer and just didn't replace him. And then in January didn't sign a single player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and we're now struggling to retain the title. I mean, we basically need snookers to retain the title. You know?
Yeah.
Yesterday's Glasgow City result did us a favour from getting it, finishing second and getting into Europe point of view, but didn't do us any favours with the league's concerned. So,
yeah.
I just wonder if that's anything. You know, if they've just got complacent, which you couldn't really leave that at Malky's door. But as Carl says, you don't want to see him lose a job. But is it getting a bit stale with him? You know, is it just a case of the favourites are getting a game? You know?
Yeah, it's not easy to say. And Carr, you know, Ian's asking, you think the women's team has the same problems as the men's first team? You know,
which one?
That's just the point. The point I've just made.
Just a generalised point.
It's the point I've just made, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have. I think they thought, oh, this is us now. We're going to go on and dominate for the next 10 years, and we don't really need to do very much. We're gonna stroll it. We've thrown some money at it. They've won it unbeaten. It's going to be grand. And then we started the season really well. We've won the cup. We've been flying, and now the wheels are starting to fall off. And there's not really much we can do about it at this point. The window's shut. There's not really anybody you can bring in unless you can get somebody from America in or one of those kind of teams. But it's looking like we don't have any money for that, or for whatever reason they don't want to do that. And now we're just kind of stuck, and we have to kind of hope that some other results will go in our favour and that we can, you know, beat them, because we've not done that yet this season. So we need to beat both Celtic and City. You know, we need to win all of our remaining games to be in with a chance of getting second place and winning the cup. So we need to figure that out. We need to figure it quickly. Malky's too predictable, as Alan's just said there. He makes the same subs like for like. He doesn't really change anything. He's playing the same players all the time. And it's not working. So what do you do?
Yeah, as Wilf said earlier, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. So, yeah, and it's you know, as Ian's just saying here, took our eye off the ball with all our teams after successful years, and it's not until you put the two together, as you said, Wilf, that the men's and the women's both unbeaten seasons, winning the leagues, and then, you know, just staying still.
It just struck me at the weekend. I was sitting thinking about it, and I thought, you know something, there's too many similarities there. You know what I mean? And it's too much of a coincidence for me. I don't really believe in coincidences. It's too much of a coincidence for me.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that the women's team didn't bring in anybody in January when we were sorely needing. I mean, we've been missing Jane Ross, as everybody's been saying, but we don't have somebody that does the job that she does. We've never brought them in.
No.
You know what I mean? And it's just whether it's bringing somebody in on loan for a short period of time, because there's got to be players somewhere that you could bring in on a short-term contract just to tide us over till Jane comes back, till the season finishes. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just really frustrating. I mean, you watch a game like yesterday, we had loads of the ball, made loads of chances. The final ball in a lot of the time wasn't great, and then the finishing wasn't up to much. You know what I mean, we were never really in any danger because Jenna had nothing to do in the entire game, but their keeper had very little to do either.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, which is worrying. I mean, I was there with my daughter, and she went, "Well, I thought this would be a fairly straightforward game because Spartans are kind of mid-table; they're not really up to much." She said, "Couldn't believe how difficult that was."
Yeah,
and it was difficult because we made it difficult for ourselves. We did, but we were never really in any danger. However, you know what it's like at 1-0, anything can happen. Just a wee slip, a lucky break, before you know where you're dropping points. You know.
Yeah, and I suppose I could ask either of you this question. You know, Kathy Hill, is she injured at the moment, or what? What's the Jack and Ori with Kathy?
I don't know. She's out. She appears to be injured, but they haven't told us what the situation is. She hasn't played since after the Celtic game. So what it's been, she's not been on the bench at all, but she's been at the game. Same with Kirsty Howard. I don't know what's going on with her either, and whether they picked up knocks and he just kind of made them play for this Celtic game because we needed them, and now he's saying, well, we don't need you right now, it's fine. I don't know, but they don't tell us anything. Whereas last season they used to tell us all the time, Kirsty Howard's out with a knock, she'll be back next week or whatever. Now they're not telling us anything.
Yeah, and as Alan's saying here, I did say to Wilf when I seen him at halftime at Spartans, it was nice to see us trying a change of shape to 4-4-2. But as he said, it's not working. Do you think a system that can work? Do you think it's this? It's a system that can work for us, as in 4-4-2.
Not with the current personnel, no. Or certainly not with the current team that he picks. It doesn't work because we'll try to play 4-4-2, but we didn't have two strikers. Yeah. Because Jenny Danielson isn't a striker for me. It's not the game that she plays. You've got Kayla up front, but she can't do it all on her own. Mm-hmm. As Carl said at the game against Partick, which I didn't see, but at the game with Partick, she was doing it all herself. When she came on, and at Spartans, she was basically up front on her own. And you can't play 4-4-2 if you've only got one striker. It doesn't work. And the game changed when we brought on the two white players. You know what I mean? I mean, the first half, our biggest attacking threat was probably Maddie North in the first half yesterday, when she pushed forward. But again, she's not got a target because when Kayla's up front herself, she's very easy to mark out of the game because you've got 3 or 4 defenders on her. You know what I mean? I just don't think the system yesterday worked.
No. And then, as you were alluding to there, Carl, why was Dina sold but not replaced in January? A really good player like Dina was just let go, but yet nobody else came in.
I don't know. I mean, she wasn't playing anyway. So for whatever reason, she wasn't getting any time. So I know she was injured for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and then when she came back, she just wasn't getting any time. So I don't know. Like last season, we brought in Yanni Arntz for I think it was like a 12-week last kind of end of the season, like to tide us over. We brought in Kira Grant for like 6 months or something. We were constantly bringing in fresh people just to help us squad players. And this season, we seem to not be doing any of that to help us. And we're hemorrhaged players, and we've not replaced them like for like. Last season we relied a lot on Jane and Lizzie to work, and who work incredibly well together. And we've lost that. You can tell that Lizzie doesn't have the same faith in Jenny, Kirsty Howard, whoever is beside her, Kayla, that she does in Jane. They worked so well together and they paired really well together. They would switch in and out. They would, it worked. But now we don't have that. And it's like the whole squad it isn't clicking and working together cohesively. So everybody's trying something different and nobody else is on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
And ironically, Brian, we'll let Kira Grant go. She's away to Hearts and she scored in the last 2 games, and we're scheming out for somebody that can score goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And ironically enough, Emma Brownlee started scoring for Hearts as well. You know what I mean? Whether it's the way they play suits them better, or it's just ironic that we're scheming out for somebody that can score goals, and the two girls that we let go across to Edinburgh are scoring goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose. I think, Ian, do you not think that is the problem with all the teams? And I'm probably assuming he's meaning the lack of goals, or converting chances into goals. I'm thinking that's what he's meaning.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. So I mean, you've got a question: is it the intensity in training? I mean, they always say they train well and they're on the top of the game and they're all up for it, and it just seems to be something's not right all through this. I mean, whether the common denominator is Ross Wilson, I'm not sure. I mean, we had a bit of a heated discussion. I don't know if you saw it earlier. In the earlier pod, that got a wee bit heated, the discussion about Ross Wilson. Whether it's down to him, whether it's down to the board not backing him, whether it's down to Malky and Ross being at cross swords, having different opinions on players, so they end up having nobody, or what it is, we don't know, because we'll never know because we're not party to these conversations. No. But it just seems to be the same problems in both the men's team and the women's team. I mean, I know we're here to talk about the women's team, but you look, there's so many similarities, and it seems to be a club-wide thing, And the problem we've got with what we're here to talk about is that it's going back to getting bums on seats inside the ground, right? It ain't going to happen if we get things like a 3-0 defeat at Celtic at a whimper, you know what I mean, then struggling to beat Spartans, and we're looking like we're the league's probably going, we're struggling to finish second. Third in a 3-horse race is no good. You're not going to get. I mean, somebody at the game yesterday said to me she was at Ibrox on Saturday, and she was in one of the suites at a table with somebody, and they started talking about the women's game.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy didn't realize she goes to watch the women's team. She's, you know, and the question asked to her was, and there's probably a lot of fans thinking like this: do you think the club should bother pumping money into women's football? And obviously her answer was yes, of course they should, because she goes to watch the games. You know what I mean? But I mean, how many other supporters are thinking that, saying, well, is this just a waste of money because it's not working? Now, I don't personally believe that, because I think it will come. It's going to be a project. It's going to be a long-term project, but it's going to come. As I say, we stood still after we won the league, and we'll have to get back on the horse. We'll have to find a way to turn this round. I mean, I'd like to think we can still go on and win this title. It's going to be a huge ask. Like as Carl said, we need to find a way to beat Glasgow City and beat Celtic. We have to, because even if, I mean, somebody asked earlier on in the comments, if winning the 2 cups and finishing second, so getting into Europe, would that be considered a successful season? It might have been Curry that asked the question, actually. Mm-hmm. Is it a successful season? I would say you could possibly argue it is, but we'll have to have beat both of them at least once along the way. Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's so frustrating, because we're a much better team than we're shown. The sum of our parts is much better than the results we're getting.
Yeah. You'll maybe know a bit of this card. Does that ring a bit of a? Does that ring any sort of bells as in the assistant manager going to Arsenal? And
yeah, Kevin Murphy was the I think it was like kind of academy and recruitment and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how much in the day-to-day, but when you watch the training videos and stuff, he was always really involved, and he was always, you know, doing kind of tactical stuff. So it could well be that that's played a role in it. There was an academy coach for, I think, the 16s or the 14s that's also left, and she's went somewhere else. So, you know, it could just be a case that they're getting opportunities down south, so, you know, they want to do that. But could it also be a sign that something is going on at the club, that people are wanting to leave? They want out. They don't want to deal with it anymore. We'll obviously never know that, but you know, it could be. And then we're not bringing players in. We're struggling. They're not doing anything about it. As Wilf's saying, people will always have the opinion that women's football's crap. Why put any money into it? We could be signing another player for that £1 million or whatever they're putting into it. I think that's always going to be the case. But you're wanting to get to a point where it is self-sufficient, at least part of the way. But the club could do a hell of a lot more to make that happen. They could sell women's tops for a start, and then use that money solely on the women's team. So then it's, you know, it's funding it. Mm-hmm. They got Broadwood purely so they could get more people in, because the training centre didn't hold enough people. But then they have to pay for that. So you're probably not making any money on that, because you're just paying for the overheads of that, realistically. So nobody's going to show up if we're not winning anything. You saw that before we even went pro. Nobody went to the games, bar friends and family, but the club didn't really let anyone know there was games on at that point. It was a nightmare to try and find out what was going on. Even last season, they didn't really market it very well. It's like they're doing the bare minimum. They're ticking all the boxes that they need to, but it's like no one actually is that bothered. It's always going to be about the men's team, and I think that's going to be a problem for a lot of women's teams that are tied to their men's teams. And it's why Glasgow City have been so dominant, because they're not tied to anyone. They're solely relying on themselves to make them money, and then any money they make is then going back into them. Whereas we don't have that luxury. You know, if we do get into the latter stage of Europe, I don't see that happening for a good few years. But if we did, it is a lot of money for a women's team to earn. Would some of that money then get put back into the general club, because the general club put money into the women's team? You don't know. So you don't know how it works. But something needs to give. And I don't know what it is, but if we go to the end of the season winning 2 cups and coming second, I won't class that as a success. Because last year we laughed at Celtic for saying they only won 2 cups. Like, what's that? It doesn't matter. And now that could be the reality for us this year. And it's not good enough after last season of how well we did to now regress this badly. It's not good enough for any Rangers team, but it's not good enough for a team that did what they did last year.
Absolutely.
Brian, picking up what Carl's saying about promoting the games as well, right? We've got a game this Sunday, right, that very few people probably realise that you can actually get to after the Cup game with Wraith, because the Cup game with Wraith's at 1 o'clock and the ladies' game's at 4:10.
Yeah.
And it's eminently doable. You know what I mean? And on that point, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the rules on what standard the ground they have to have. I mean, could they have stayed at the training centre had it not been for trying to attract crowds? I don't know if that's what would have to happen, right? But why use Broadwood? Why not go back to where they used to play, right? And go to Benburn Juniors. It's 300 yards for Ibrox, right?
Yeah.
Then you get a game like Sunday when you've got the first team playing at 1 o'clock, the ladies kicking off at 4:10. You're not in a rush to get to Cumbernauld. I mean, I spoke to two of my friends yesterday at the game. They go to as many ladies' games as they can, right? And so I saw them yesterday. I said, "Are you double heading it next Sunday?" Then, well, we're looking at the logistics of it, because neither of the two of them have got a car, because they live in Partick, so they don't need a car, because they can use public transport and all that. It's Mary and Sam. You'll know who I'm talking about cars, Mary and Sam, right? So I said, look, I'll give you a lift to Broadwood after Ibrox, because I'm going, right? Now, if that was at Benburn, they could just walk up the road.
Yeah.
It's a 5-10 minute walk. You know what I mean? And it would make more sense. And also on the promoting it point, I haven't seen anywhere Rangers saying, by the way, there's a second game you can go to on Sunday. You know what I mean? And okay, they might do it later in the week, but people make their plans days in advance. They don't just say on a Saturday, right, what we do tomorrow. You know what I mean? They make, particularly people like us that have to travel a distance.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, one of my mates is going in the huff because I can't take him back on Sunday because he wants to go straight back up the road. I said, well, I'm going to the ladies' game in there after it. You know what I mean? That's up to him. But you've got other people as well. I would have arranged to do that had I known, but I didn't know, so it's too late to make my arrangements now. Rangers should be punting this now.
Yeah.
Saying you realise that, and it's an important game. You know what I mean? It's a big. I mean, it's the last game before the split. It's an important game. And again, to make it self-sufficient, you need people to get through the door. And what better way? Look, you're going back from Ibrox. Do you have to nip straight home? It's a Sunday tea. You've taken your kids to the cup game because there's tickets available. It's a cup game. It's not all just season tickets. Why not take them to the ladies' game after it? You know what I mean? It's a win-win for Rangers. What have they possibly got to lose advertising that? But they're not. They're just, like Carl says, they seem to just be doing enough. You know what I mean?
They're not even doing enough sometimes, are they?
No, I mean, I've spoken to the media team quite a lot. Like, they're good people, but I think they also have a lot to do with the men's side of things. So I think, if you had someone dedicated purely for dealing with the social media of the women's team, getting that advertised, get people around, why not even just throw a bus on? Pay an extra £2 for your men's ticket, jump on the bus after the game, we'll take you up to the game. The whole reason we got Broadwood was because we needed a bigger stadium for Champions League. We had to be within a certain size requirement. Yeah. I don't know what it was, but I know Peters Hill is big enough, so I'm guessing it needs to be at least 500 seats. It must be something like that. So that was the whole reason that we went there. But there must be somewhere closer, somewhere a bit better. As Laura was saying, Queen's Park ladies play at New Tinto Park, so we couldn't play there. But there must be an Astro somewhere.
But why couldn't we? Because there's about 3 teams play at Peters Hill. I mean, that's why we kicked off the cup game at 11 o'clock, because 2 other games on.
That's right.
It must be doable. I mean, New Tinto Park's just one because I know it's there and I know we've played there before. I don't really know the other grounds around about it, but there must be other grounds that you could use. I mean, there must be. Yeah. But even, I mean, Broadwood's fine for me because it's for me personally, it's on the right side of Glasgow for me, coming down from Aberdeen. Mm-hmm. And it's fine for folk in that side of the town. But, I mean, they've got to think outside those. I mean, Carl's idea of running a bus, I never even thought, that's a brilliant idea. You know what I mean? Yeah. We'll get a bus leaving from outside the Albion car park 15 minutes after full time on Sunday, the men's game. Instead of your ticket for the game being a £5, give us $7.50 and we'll take you there on the bus and we'll take you back again. I mean, our chairman owns a bus company. It shouldn't be difficult to do. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be difficult to do.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
I mean, we're only three punters sitting on a podcast talking about it, and Carr's come up with the idea of doing that. How difficult is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
just about thinking outside the box. You know what I mean? It's just.
Is this a fair point, Cars, in the sense that, or both years, that Queen's Park will surely move to Lesser Hampden soon, which will free up New Tinto? I've enjoyed Broadwood. It's easy for me to get to, but great points about the location of New Tinto. I mean, is that a feasible option?
Yeah, well, they'll obviously move to Lesser Hampden, but the men's team will also play there, so I don't know if that will cause any issues with scheduling and stuff.
They possibly won't. They possibly won't. No, sorry, can't cut across you, because if they get promoted, Queen's Park will be playing. The men's team will be playing at Hampden.
Yeah,
because there's no way they're playing. There's no way they're playing Premiership games in that place because it's too small.
Yeah.
So theoretically, if Queen's Park men's team get promoted, Lesser Hampden sit and do nothing, so they probably will play there.
Yeah.
If they don't, how ironic would it be if we did? You know what I mean?
I also just don't know the size of it, though, if it will meet regulations for Champions League, because there's no stand, there's no seats, there's nothing there. It's all standing.
They're currently building them, though. They're currently building. That's why Queen's Park aren't playing there just now, because aren't playing the championship games there just now, because they're building two stands in it.
No, at New Tinto Park.
Oh, at New Tinto, sorry.
Yeah,
surely
I don't know if
the
that'll
Champions League games they could use Ibrox, which is what they should be doing anyway for Champions League games. You know what I mean?
They absolutely should.
Yeah.
Without question, they should be.
And it's do we share Broadwood with 3 other teams?
Yeah, the Cumbernauld Colts, Broomhill Open Goal, and us.
Yeah. So, yeah, it just seems.
But Bryan Broadwood is basically just a community stadium that anybody could hire. We could put a team together and we could go and play on it. You know what I mean? And obviously Rangers will have a contract that they can play. You know, I mean, I think that's why the Hibs game a couple of weeks ago was on a Thursday, because there was Broomhill playing on the Tuesday and Cumbernauld Colts on the Wednesday, so we had to play on the Thursday. It was something like that. There was those other games that were on, you know. So obviously, if you've got the regular contract, they'll make sure they find a time for you on it. But ultimately, nobody can pay to play on it. So
yeah. Well, I suppose that's just coming up to 45, and we've had a chat about the 2 games that we won. We've had a bit of a bleat about things that we want changed and things that we believe should be changed, and a couple of ideas. So we, as Wolf and Carr said, we've got the game against Hamilton next Sunday at 4:10, I believe.
Yep, this Sunday.
The whole card's at 4:10. I'm guessing they haven't decided which one's on the telly yet.
I was just about to ask you which one's the telly game.
That's the BBC Alba time, isn't it? So they probably scheduled them all because it's the last one before the split.
Yeah.
And I would assume they'll take one that's got something on it. So they'll probably take one that's winner finishes top 6 or something like that. I'm not quite sure how the league standings are, because I don't really look below us. So I'm hoping that they'll leave it at 4:10 and don't suddenly tomorrow decide they're changing it and making it 3 o'clock, which would be an absolute fucking nightmare. Because I bought my tickets today for the game at 4:10. So
I mean, Caroline, the Sky deal for Scottish women's football, they've shown 1 game so far. And that was the cup
and I think they might take the 2 semi-finals for the cup, and they'll take the final, and then potentially end of the season they'll take a City Celtic, us City game. They'll do the bare minimum that they have to, because the deal was just tacked on at the end of the rubbish deal that they took for the men's clubs. And we were just thrown in as an additional, you can also show this, and then it looks like you're being progressive and you care. But they don't care. You can tell they don't care by how little they pay attention to it.
Yeah. But then the national broadcaster don't care, because, I mean, the game yesterday was on the BBC Sport website. I found that out yesterday morning. On my way down to Edinburgh for the game, I found out that the game was on the BBC Sport website. It would have made no difference. I was still going to the game. But as I say, people make their plans, particularly for 3 weekend days, usually several days in advance. I mean, and there's no promotion of it anywhere. You know, if you can't get to the game, watch it on the BBC Sport website. I mean, how many times, Brian, you message me, where is this game? You know what I mean? It's not on Albo. Where is it? Is it online? Is it on the iPlayer? Where can you find it? They just don't tell you. You know what I mean?
No, it's torture. And I suppose Alan's got a point. They'll be kicking off at the same time, so no team can say there's an advantage with the last game before the split. Is that another possibility?
That's probably, probably. Look, Brian, see, as long as they don't move the kick-off time again, I'm quite happy because I can make the game because it's within travelling time of Ibrox finishing before it starts. So I'm quite happy. I'm over the moon. I wish it happened more often.
Yeah.
I mean, I go back to 2 or 3 seasons ago when the men's first team were at Tynecastle at 12:30 and the ladies' team were at Spartans at 3:00, and it's just not possible to do the two of them in whether it would have been 10 minutes. With the traffic, you can do it in 15 minutes without traffic, but with all the match day traffic and stuff like that, you just wouldn't have done it. Why did they not move the kickoff back to 4:00 or something? So you could conceivably, they wouldn't have got a lot more folk at it, but they maybe get 20, 30 folk at it. Yeah. That's still eyes on the game, it's still revenue. You know what I mean? And obviously we'd need to do that for our games. You'd need to leave at least an hour and a half to make sure you can get from Ibrox across to Cumbernauld, because it's not that far, but we all know what it's like getting away from Ibrox on a match day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know? Or as Carl says, the club could put on buses, or as we were talking about, we could move closer. You know, make it achievable. Try and encourage people to go there. Try and make it that people can actually get to the bloody games. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how difficult would it be to stick a ladies' game on at Ibrox before the men's game? Get some people in early. You know what I mean? That's magnificent. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but
absolutely.
So
of course
they're probably never going to do that. But
no. But as I said, we've got Hamilton next. Car. I would imagine. Don't want to speak out of turn, but I'd imagine it'll be a comfortable win for us.
I'd like to think so.
We're going down the bottom, aren't they?
I said that yesterday, Brian.
Sorry.
I said it'd be a comfortable win yesterday.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But Hamilton are really struggling down at the bottom, aren't they?
Yeah, I think we always score at least 6 against Hamilton, so it'll do us good if we can do that to get our goal difference up, because I think we're currently sat on 83 goals, and I think City have 88.
And City have got Glasgow women and
that's fine. They'll score like 14 then, so it's going to be irrelevant what we do. So it doesn't really matter at that point. But
Celtic's away to Hibs on Sunday, so that'll be a toughish game for them.
Well, I think so, wouldn't you? But you never know. Anything can happen. Hibs put City out of the cup, and Spartans put Celtic out of the cup. So,
well, this is it. There's always that as well. Of course, we've got the Scottish Cup to look forward to after the split as well. So, my thanks to Carr, my thanks to Wilf. We'll catch up next Monday after the Hamilton game, and then when do the fixtures come out after the split?
Who knows?
Oh, that's another maybe we don't know.
We'll probably find out next week.
So hopefully before the podcast next Monday.
I was away to say that's what I was kind of hoping for. We'll know the fixtures before the podcast next Monday, but we'll try and maybe do a quick reaction to the fixtures if they do come out. Later in the week, we'll maybe do a quick 15-20 minutes just discussing the fixtures, how the permutations could go, and blah de blah de blah. But anyway. Thanks to Wolf, thanks to Carr, thanks to everybody for contributing. It's been a busy comments board tonight, which has been brilliant. So we will catch you next Monday, and thanks for joining us.